In this video, I'm going to answer the age-old question, is it better to flip or hold real estate? If you guys have watched my channel for a while now, I keep telling you guys to multiply the assets you own. But in today's video, I'm going to go over in detail why it's better to either flip or hold. I'm going to give you guys my opinions. And then at the end, I want you guys to decide and let me know in the comments what you guys thought won. Hey guys, I'm Hoan. So today I'm going to be talking about whether you should flip or hold. But if you're brand new to this channel, welcome to the Hoan Zone. This is where we help you multiply the assets that you own. I've been a real estate investor for the last 10 years and I own properties all across Philadelphia. And most of the properties that I have to hold on to as rentals, long-term rentals. Now, because I own a bunch of rentals, I may seem a little biased and I might lean towards rentals, but I'm going to give you a non-biased view of how I see flipping versus holding. Some of the best benefits with flipping properties is that you no longer have to deal with them. Once you sell the properties, they're in the rear view mirror. You never think about them ever again. You don't have any tenant problems. You don't have any toilet problems. You don't have any of those problems. It's fantastic. You sell the property, it's gone. And I've done that a bunch of times. I've flipped properties, and it is really nice not to have to think about those properties ever again. And when you flip properties, you get all that money at the end, which is pretty cool too. So you get all this money, you don't think about the property, and voila, you're moving. Also, when you flip a property, you don't have to worry about getting long-term debt. And if your credit is bad, you might not be able to get long-term debt pretty easily. So flipping might be your solution because of your current situation with credit. And finally, when you sell the property, you no longer have any liability from slip and fall on the property. So pretty much any worries that you might have with any property, they're gone when you flip the property. Now, let's talk about some of the negatives. When you sell the property, your liability is not 100% gone. If the property is faulty and they blame the builder, which might be you, then all of a sudden there are a whole bunch of problems that are about to come your way. Could be lawsuits and all of that because of the faulty craftsmanship. So you do have to worry about that a little bit. You are not completely absolved with all of your issues. The other thing is when you sell the property and you get all of that money, that is typically short-term capital gains if you do it under a year. So if you buy the property and 6 months later you sell the property, that's short-term capital gains and that's going to be taxed at your highest rate. So you don't have any tax benefits there. Also, when you sell the property, you throw away all of the cash flow that you could have potentially have gotten, and you definitely don't get any appreciation. So if the property goes up in value, none of that value is yours. So with all of those negatives, why would anybody want to flip properties? Well, like I said, you don't have to deal with the maintenance issues because some people don't like the maintenance issues. And also, you don't have to deal with the credit issues of trying to get long-term financing. You might be able to get hard money or something like that. You might be able to find some lender who's flexible enough to give you a short-term loan where it allows you to buy the property and fix it up. And then you get to sell it and make all kinds of money. And then with that money, you can then start paying down your bills, and then you can get your credit back in line where it needs to be so that you can get long-term financing. So for a lot of people, they do a strategy called flip, 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 hold. What does that mean? Well, obviously you flip a bunch of properties until you are ready to hold a property. So maybe that is your strategy based on the situation that you are in. When you hold a property, it's kind of like the opposite of flipping the property because instead of one-time payment, you get multiple payments, small multiple payments. You get cash flow over time. Now, if you do a cash out refinance, when you do the BRRRR strategy, you do get to pull out a lump sum of money, but it's not going to be as much as the capital gains when you sell the property, because when you sell the property, you're getting 100% of the value. When you refinance, you're only getting 75% of the value. So the amount that you pull out won't be as much. But here's a fun little thing to consider. When you sell the property on the market will dictate exactly what the property is worth. When you do a cash out refinance, what you're going to do is you're going to get an appraisal. The appraiser is going to say the value of the property, and then you're going to take 75% of that value. Sometimes that appraiser is wrong and will appraise your property for more than it will actually sell for. As an example is, you might be able to sell a property for let's say $250,000, but an appraiser might say that it would appraise for $300,000. So why you might flip the property is because the appraiser told you that the value was 300, and you're like, oh, if I sell for $300,000, I'm gonna make $75,000. When in actuality, when you list the property for 300, it sits, and then you drop the price to 290, and it still sits, and you drop and drop and drop until you drop to 250, and then it sells. An appraiser doesn't know that that's what you're going to experience. They're just doing their best to give you an opinion, but that opinion could be pretty wrong. And so when you end up selling, you sell for 250 versus the 300 that the appraiser said. But when you go to refinance, you're taking 75% of that 300, so that's 225. So the 225 loan seems like, oh, well, Hoan, that's still less than the 250 that I sell it for. Yes, but after you pay the taxes on the profit from the 250, you might find that your cash out refinance and how much cash you actually pull out might be close or even more than what you end up with net after taxes. So that's something that you got to consider. I know the numbers might be a little tricky, but if you guys have been following along, you guys see what happens here. And I've seen this happen all of the time. People try to flip a property for a really high number based on an appraisal, but it doesn't actually sell for that number. The market has spoken and says, well, you may think that it's worth 300, but we're not paying that, and we're going to pay you 250. So sometimes you flip for 250 and you realize that wasn't as great of a deal as you thought. As I hold on to properties, the property value goes up through appreciation or through inflation. Either one doesn't matter. The value still goes up. So as me as a holder of that property, I get to benefit from that. When you flip it, it goes away. So I do like holding that property for long term to gain that appreciation. And then also when I hold it long term, I have principal pay down, so that spread between how much I owe and how much it's worth gets larger and larger over time, and that's my net worth. Here is a really cool idea though. Instead of flipping properties right away after you fix them all up, why not maybe rent the property out for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then sell the property? What happens is you'll see what things break or don't break, right? So you can fix the things that don't break so that when you sell the properties, you don't have any liability of anything coming back to you from faulty craftsmanship that I talked about before. So if you sell the property after a couple of years of you owning it, you know what's right or wrong with the properties, the skeletons in the closets, right? You'll know. So you can fix those things so that the homeowner doesn't buy it. And then you will experience long-term capital gains, which is taxed at a lower rate than short-term capital gains. So you buy the property, rent it out, you get all that cash flow in between, and then 3 years later, you sell the property. The downside of that is you're probably going to have to rehab twice, because you're going to rehab it the first time, and then when the tenant finally leaves and you sell the property, you're going to have to clean it up. I don't know how much you're going to have to spend, but you will have to spend something. But then you sell it, and hopefully you've experienced some appreciation, so the price that you get to sell it for 3 years later is going to be higher than what you could have sold it in year one, right? So you're going to have a little bit of appreciation there, and then your principal pay down will allow you to have even more equity spread. Then you have the long-term capital gains versus short-term capital gains, and your property's in good shape. So for all of those reasons, maybe instead of picking whether you want to flip or hold, maybe you kind of do both. You hold on to it for a couple of years and then you flip it. You'll make more money, you give the end buyer a better product, and you pay less in taxes. So it's a win-win-win-win. And then all of that capital gains that you get from the sale of that property, you can then either 1031 them into another property that you're going to buy and hold, or you could actually just pay the taxes on that and then buy a property that, or I'm sorry, then you just have the money, right? Then you just have all of that money and you pay less in taxes. So there's some benefits to holding on to the property to then later flip. The 1031 being the most tax efficient version of flipping, because you don't have to pay the taxes just yet. You're just kicking that can down the road until you sell the property and you don't buy another property. But 1031, that's for a whole nother video. So this video was all about should you flip or should you hold? And I could have said it depends, but everybody hates that answer. So it doesn't depend. I say, why don't you hold on to the properties? If you can, hold on to the properties. And if you hate tenants, then have a property manager deal with your tenants for now. And then when you have a use for the money, a clear use for the money, then maybe sell the properties later so that you can experience the long-term capital gains, and then you use that money for whatever it is that you need. But I would say hold on to the property if you can. If you can't because of your credit situation, then fine, flip the properties, fix your credit situation so that you can hold. Wealth is created over time in real estate. Allow the property to compound, allow the property to appreciate, so that this way you can build that long-term wealth. And the shirt says, let's multiply. I want you guys to continue to multiply the assets you own and hold. Buy the properties, hang on to the properties, then buy another and put that into the portfolio, and just keep shoving more properties into the portfolio. And if you guys need help figuring out how to shove more properties into your portfolio, maybe you want to check out my courses at hoanzone.com. Go on there, check out the store, see what's available. These courses are designed to help you become a better real estate investor so that you can multiply the assets that you own. If you guys need help, get some courses. All right, guys, that's it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell icon because new videos coming out every Monday and Wednesday here on the Hoan Zone, where we help you multiply the assets you own. All right, guys, that is it. I'm Hoan Tai. Let's multiply.